We all start out with a set of rules. Some are given to us by our parents. Others come from our teachers, our faith, or the society we live in. These rules are like a fence, built to keep us safe on a well-lit path. They tell us what is right and what is wrong. For a time, this is enough. We walk the path, we respect the fence, and we believe we understand the world. But then, a whisper finds its way into our ear. It's a quiet sound at first, easy to ignore. It speaks of things just beyond the fence, things that look shiny and feel exciting. This is the voice of temptation. That whisper is the beginning of a conflict. It's a war that starts inside the human heart. Our knowledge of the rules battles against a newfound desire. We know we shouldn't climb the fence. We know the path is safe, but the whisper grows louder, more persuasive. It paints pictures of what could be, of a pleasure we haven't tasted, of a freedom we haven't known. Suddenly, the rules don't feel like a protection anymore. They start to feel like a cage, holding us back from something we desperately want. This is the eternal struggle, the one that has defined humanity since the very beginning. The desire itself isn't always born of evil. Sometimes it comes from a simple human place. It could be the hunger for a little more than what we have. It could be the longing for a glance from someone we admire. Or maybe it's just curiosity, a need to see what lies in the forbidden territory. The problem is not the wanting. The problem is what happens when that wanting becomes more powerful than our understanding of what is right. It creates a split within us, a fracture between the person we are supposed to be and the person we secretly wish we could be, even for just a moment. And so, we stand there at the edge of our own little garden. The path behind us is clear and safe. The world beyond the fence is unknown, full of promises and potential dangers. The rules tell us to turn back, but the whisper of desire tells us to take just one step, to have just one taste. It promises that no one will know, that it will be a secret kept within our own heart. This is the moment of choice, the first crossroad on a journey into the shadows. It is here that the door to darkness is often unlocked, not with a loud crash, but with a quiet, deliberate turn of a key. Once that forbidden desire takes root, we learn a new skill. We learn how to hide. On the outside, we work hard to look innocent. We smile at our neighbors. We follow the rules for everyone to see. We present a version of ourselves that is respectable, kind, and trustworthy. This is the mask of virtue. It's a carefully constructed face that we show to the world, a performance designed to convince everyone, and maybe even ourselves, that the darkness isn't there. We become actors in our own lives, playing the part of a good person. This performance requires constant effort. We choose our words carefully. We control our expressions. We do good deeds in public, hoping the light they cast will be bright enough to hide the shadows we carry inside. The hidden desires remain, of course. They fester in the quiet moments, late at night when no one is watching. They surface in our daydreams and our private thoughts. The mask is for the world, but the truth belongs to us alone. We live a life of careful separation, keeping our public self pure while our private self entertains the very things we publicly condemn. The danger of this mask is that it can become comfortable. We get so used to the performance that we start to believe it. We tell ourselves that our hidden thoughts don't count, that only our actions matter. We might think, as long as I don't act on it, I'm still a good person. But the deception takes a toll. It creates a deep sense of loneliness, because no one truly knows us. They only know the character we are playing. This hidden life, this secret garden of forbidden wants, becomes a private world where we are the only resident, and the isolation can slowly change who we are. Eventually, the mask can start to slip. A careless word, a lingering glance, a moment of unguarded honesty can reveal a glimpse of what lies beneath. People might sense a disconnect between who we pretend to be and who we really are. This is when we become defensive. We might get angry or try to blame others to distract them from the truth. The effort to maintain the illusion of innocence becomes a full-time job. We are no longer just hiding a desire. We are now actively protecting a lie, and that is a much heavier burden to carry. The journey deeper into wrongdoing often follows a predictable path. It's like descending a ladder one rung at a time, each step taking us further from the light. It often begins with pride. We start to believe we are smarter, better, or more deserving than others. We think the rules that apply to everyone else shouldn't apply to us. This arrogance is the fertile soil where other sins can grow. Pride tells us we are the exception, that we have the right to take what we want, regardless of the consequences for others. It's the voice that says, "I deserve this." From pride, it is a short step to greed. Once we believe we deserve more, we begin to crave it. Greed is a hunger that can never be satisfied. It's not just about money or possessions. It can be a greed for power, for attention, or for control. This relentless wanting makes us see other people not as human beings, but as obstacles or tools. They are either in our way, or they can be used to help us get what we want. Greed blinds us to the needs of others and makes our own desires the center of the universe. It is a fire that consumes everything it touches. When pride and greed have taken hold, lies become a necessary tool. We lie to hide our intentions. We lie to cover our tracks. We lie to manipulate people into giving us what we want. And when lies are not enough, anger often follows. Anger becomes a weapon we use to intimidate, to force our way, and to silence anyone who questions us. It is a loud, violent emotion that can mask our own fear and insecurity. We use anger to push people away so they can't get close enough to see the truth of what we have become. Pride, greed, lies, and anger all work together, a team of dark architects building a prison around our heart. Then come the more intimate sins. There is lust, which turns another person into an object for our own gratification, ignoring their spirit and their humanity. There is envy, the bitter poison of wanting what someone else has, not just to have it for ourselves, but to see them lose it. Envy makes us celebrate the misfortune of others. And finally, there is cruelty. This is the stage where we begin to find a dark satisfaction in causing pain. We enjoy seeing others suffer because it makes us feel powerful. These are the final steps down, where we are no longer just breaking rules, but actively seeking to harm. There is a moment in every journey into darkness that feels different. It is the moment when a person commits their first serious wrongdoing. This is not a small lie or a hidden thought. This is a significant act, a betrayal or a crime that cannot be easily undone. It is the line that, once crossed, changes everything. Before this moment, a person might see themselves as good, as someone who just made a few small mistakes. But after this act, they know they have done something truly wrong. The mask of innocence shatters, at least in their own mind. This turning point is terrifying. It brings a rush of fear, guilt, and shame. The person might try desperately to justify their actions. They might tell themselves, "I had no choice," or "they deserved it." This is an attempt to rebuild a moral foundation on broken ground. But deep down, they know. They know they have willingly stepped off the path of light and onto a road shrouded in shadow. The world looks different from this new place. Trust feels fragile and the future seems uncertain. The memory of the act becomes a constant companion, a ghost that follows them everywhere. After this first major transgression, a person is faced with a critical choice. They can try to turn back, to confess, to seek forgiveness and make amends. This path is difficult. It requires immense courage and humility. It means facing the consequences of their actions and the judgment of others. Or they can choose to go forward, deeper into the darkness. This second path often seems easier in the moment. It means embracing the new identity, doubling down on the lies, and committing more wrongs to cover up the first one. It means deciding that this is who they are now. For many, the shame is too great to face, so they choose to continue down the dark path. The first serious sin becomes a foundation upon which a whole new life is built. It redefines their moral compass. What once seemed unthinkable now becomes acceptable. What was once a line they would never cross is now a distant memory. The trespass is no longer an isolated event. It has become their new direction. They have left the familiar country of right and wrong and are now explorers in the strange and lonely land of sin. When a person who is already on a dark path gains power, their sins do not just continue, they grow larger. Power acts as an amplifier. A small act of greed in an ordinary person might lead to stealing a few dollars, but in a person with great authority, that same greed can lead to the theft of millions, the ruin of a company, or even the exploitation of an entire nation. Power removes many of the consequences that keep most people in check. It provides the resources, the influence, and the protection to commit wrongs on a massive scale, often without fear of being held accountable. Religion, which is meant to be a source of light and guidance, can also be twisted into a tool of darkness. Some people use the language of faith to justify their own hatred and prejudice. They claim that God is on their side, that their cruel actions are righteous. They use piety as a shield, hiding their own greed and lust for power behind a display of holiness. This is one of the most dangerous forms of sin because it corrupts the very thing that is supposed to save us. It turns a source of comfort and hope into a weapon of control and oppression. Some people live a double life. In one life, they are a respected member of the community, a loving parent, a trusted professional. But in their other life, lived in secret, they indulge in their darkest impulses. This separation allows them to keep their good reputation while feeding their hidden appetites. They might think they can keep these two worlds apart forever, but really, the strain of living a lie is immense. The darkness from one life inevitably begins to seep into the other, poisoning their relationships and their soul until the two worlds collide in disaster. Then there are those who become addicted to chaos itself. They are not just seeking a specific thing like money or power. They crave disorder. They find a thrill in creating conflict, in setting people against each other, and in watching things fall apart. For them, sin is not a means to an end, it is the end itself. They are drawn to the energy of destruction. These individuals are often charming and persuasive, but their goal is to destabilize everything around them. They are agents of entropy, finding a perverse joy in turning order into anarchy. Not all evil is loud and violent. Some of the greatest harm is done quietly with a gentle voice and a charming smile. This is the evil of the manipulator. The manipulator doesn't use force. Instead, they use words, emotions, and relationships to control others. They learn people's weaknesses, their fears, and their desires, and they use that knowledge to make people do what they want. They can make you feel guilty, confused, or even crazy. Their victims often don't realize they are being controlled until the damage is already done. This psychological violence can be just as destructive as any physical blow. Then there is the ordinary evil that is found in everyday life. This is the evil of the person who does bad things without much thought at all. They are not master villains with a grand plan. They are simply selfish, lazy, or thoughtless. It's the manager who takes credit for someone else's work. It's the neighbor who spreads a harmful rumor just because they are bored. They do these things because it's easy, and they don't stop to consider the pain they cause. This casual cruelty, repeated millions of times a day all over the world, creates a vast ocean of human suffering. Perhaps the most common and dangerous sin of all is the sin of doing nothing. This is the evil of silence, of looking the other way. It's the person who witnesses an injustice and chooses not to speak up because they are afraid or because they don't want to get involved. They tell themselves it's not their problem, but their silence is a form of consent. It allows the wrongdoing to continue. When good people stay quiet, they create a space for evil to grow and flourish. The bystander who does nothing shares in the guilt of the one who commits the act. These quiet evils are insidious because they are so easy to commit. It takes no effort to be indifferent. It takes very little courage to stay silent. We can convince ourselves that we are not responsible for the actions of others, but we are all connected. Our choices and our failures to choose create ripples that affect everyone around us. The refusal to act, the decision to remain a spectator in the face of wrong, is a profound moral failure. It is a quiet betrayal of our shared humanity, and its consequences can be devastating. Sometimes, the patterns of sin are not our own creation. They are passed down through generations, like a family curse. A father's anger becomes his son's anger. A mother's deception becomes her daughter's way of life. These cycles of harm are incredibly difficult to break. Children learn what they live. They absorb the behaviors and attitudes of their parents, and they carry those wounds and that darkness into their own lives. A family can become trapped in a repeating story of abuse, addiction, or betrayal, with each generation playing out the same tragic roles. Breaking this cycle requires a tremendous amount of awareness and strength. Someone in the family has to be the first to say, "This stops with me." They have to consciously choose a different path, even when the old familiar road is all they have ever known. This means unlearning the lessons of their childhood and fighting against instincts that feel deeply ingrained. It is a lonely and painful battle, often fought without support from the very people who passed the curse along. But it is the only way to free future generations from the same fate. An interesting thing happens when a person becomes fully aware of their own darkness. Some people, upon realizing the harm they have caused, crumble under the weight of guilt. But others do something different. They embrace it. They see themselves as the villain in their own story and decide to play the part. This is not about ignorance or weakness anymore. It is a conscious choice. They accept their identity as a bad person and may even take a strange pride in it. They stop making excuses and simply own their actions, however destructive they may be. This self-aware villain can be particularly dangerous. They are no longer struggling with a conscience. They have silenced that inner voice of right and wrong, or they have learned to enjoy its screams. They understand their own motivations and are honest with themselves about their capacity for cruelty. They might see the world as a dark and broken place, and they have simply decided to be a reflection of that reality. This is a person who has looked into the abyss, and instead of turning away, they have decided to make it their home. There often comes a time of reckoning. It can be a quiet moment of confession to a loved one, or a public admission in a court of law. This is the moment when the truth, which has been hidden for so long, finally comes into the light. Confession can be a release, a way of lifting a heavy burden, but it does not erase what has been done. It is simply the first step in facing the consequences. For the person who was harmed, the confession might be the beginning of healing, or it might just be confirmation of a painful truth they already knew. The struggle for justice is a long and complicated one. Our systems of law are designed to determine guilt and assign punishment, but they can never truly restore what was lost. Justice can bring a sense of closure, but it cannot undo the pain. And what happens when the system fails? What happens when the guilty go free, or when the punishment does not fit the crime? This creates a new kind of pain, a sense of cosmic unfairness that can lead to bitterness and a desire for personal revenge. The pursuit of justice is a human attempt to impose order on the chaos of sin, but it is always an imperfect effort. In our modern world, technology has changed the nature of sin. The internet allows wrongdoing to happen on a global scale. A lie can spread to millions in an instant. A person's reputation can be destroyed by anonymous strangers. Shame and humiliation can be captured on video and preserved forever. Technology creates a permanent record of our mistakes. A youthful error, once forgotten, can now follow a person for their entire life. This digital stain makes it harder to escape the past and harder to start over. It has created new ways to harm and new ways to be haunted by our actions. This technology also brings new forms of temptation. It offers anonymity, which can encourage our worst impulses. It creates virtual worlds where we can indulge in fantasies without immediate real-world consequences. It exposes us to a constant stream of information and imagery that can fuel envy, lust, and greed. We are living in a new frontier of human behavior, and we are still learning how to navigate the moral challenges it presents. Technology has given our capacity for both good and evil a powerful new amplifier, and the consequences are something we are only just beginning to understand. This journey through the shadows of the human heart leads us to a final, difficult set of questions. Is everyone capable of being forgiven? Can every sin be redeemed? We want to believe in second chances. We want to believe that people can change. But then we must look at those who seem incapable of remorse. There are some who commit terrible acts and feel no guilt, no sorrow. They seem to have a piece missing from their soul, a part that is supposed to feel empathy and regret. For these individuals, what does forgiveness even mean? And we must not forget the victims. The conversation about sin and forgiveness often focuses on the person who did wrong. But what about the innocent people who are caught in the crossfire? Their lives are changed forever by the choices of another. Their pain is real and lasting. For them, forgiveness might not be possible, or it might be a long and arduous journey. Their suffering is a stark reminder that sin is not just an abstract concept. It has real, tangible consequences that ripple out and touch many lives, often in devastating ways. This brings us to the idea of regret. True regret is more than just feeling sorry that you got caught. It is a deep, painful understanding of the harm you have caused. It is a sorrow that changes you from the inside out. This genuine regret is the seed of true change. A person who feels this kind of remorse is capable of transformation. They can begin the hard work of making amends, of rebuilding trust, and of becoming a better person. It is not an easy path, but it is a hopeful one. So can people really change? Can a person who has walked deep into the darkness find their way back to the light? Perhaps the answer lies in awareness. If we can understand how sin begins, how it grows, and how it twists our nature, maybe we can learn to recognize it in ourselves. Maybe by shining a light on these dark corners of the human condition, we can find the wisdom to choose a different path. The capacity for darkness is in all of us, but so is the capacity for light. The choice every single day is ours.